community. I am a bridge builder. I am able to work across party lines. I look at the principles, I look at the issues, and I act on those. Thank you so very much for your attention.
Thank you. We're going to begin with our first question. I'll also ask the timer to make sure you keep that 30-second up until they see it. Our first question, we're going to begin with David Cruz-Thane. We have several here regarding banking, so I'll read you some of the thoughts, and then we'll get to the questions. But the thoughts are complex derivatives were one of the major causes of the Great Recession. And would you put them onto exchanges, or if not, how would you prevent speculation? And some other points, do you think the banking industry is overregulated, especially in light of the disclosure this week of the $2 billion loss at JP Morgan? And finally, would you vote to reinstate Glass-Steagall, the banking regulation? So, David, the questions to you are, how do you feel about preventing speculation in the banking? And would you vote to reinstate Glass-Steagall? And as I believe, that's the regulation that had banks not do so much risky speculation. There was a separation there back in the day. So, David, to you.
Yeah. Wow. I'm not going to try to explain derivatives. I don't think very few people understand what derivatives are, and I spent a good period of time asking some very bright people who work on Wall Street, and nobody can give me an answer to that because I don't think anybody really knows. We have all these very complex financial instruments that have been created by some very, I should say, very smart young men and women coming out of many of the Ivy League schools that have created these things that are very difficult to understand. I think that, you know, when it comes to Wall Street reform, I think we definitely need to take a look at Wall Street reform. I think we need to constantly look for that balance between over-regulation and under-regulation. And so many times we go one way or the other, and we have to try to find that right balance, because at the end of the day, capitalism is the system that we have, and it's the best system out there, and we have to make sure it works, but we have to make sure it works fairly.
Thank you. Julia, same question to you, your position on Glass-Steagall and regulation of the banking industry.
Well, certainly after hearing the news this week around JP Morgan, I think this is exactly why we need Wall Street reform. I think big banks and Wall Street are responsible for the mess that we have been in, and they should not gamble with our money. And that's why we need to prevent this kind of thing happening. And that's exactly what happened with JP Morgan, and that is they took the money that was secured by FDIC and speculated on the stock market and lost pretty substantially. It sounds like the $2 billion is even growing further than that. And also, as it relates to Social Security, this makes me think of Social Security and the proposition of potentially privatizing Social Security. And I think that's what House Republicans want to do in Washington, is take that safe money that's in that safe lockbox and speculate with it as well. And so, yes, I do think that we need further regulation of Wall Street.
Thank you. Linda, same question to you.
Yeah, I think it's a direct relation to the fact that we don't have sufficient regulations, and there is a failure to regulate. And so certainly I do support that. We do that. And I also look at what happens when we do have the failure to regulate. And it does end up hurting all of us. The bailouts that were done in Wall Street were deplorable, that they were able to get our money and with no strings attached, and that bothers me a lot too. The funds that went to Wall Street didn't have any strings attached. For example, they could have required them to help people with their mortgages, and they didn't. And to see that many millions of dollars go out to private corporations, essentially, hurts our, the middle class, because it's our tax dollars that end up going to the bailouts. So I have a lot of concerns, and it's something that we can do if we have better regulation.
Thank you. Jess, same question to you about regulating the banking industry, and would you vote to reinstate the Glass-Steagall Banking Act?
Yes, I would. And, this speculation is really hurting our country. We have to stop this type of speculation. We need to have full disclosure. Investors many times are not fully understanding what they are investing in. So that's why we need the regulation, and we need to make sure that whatever that you invest in is being clearly defined so that you understand what you're getting into before you get into it. And that's part of the problem that not only happens on Wall Street, but it trickles all the way down to Main Street in other forms of contract, whether they're real estate contracts, or it could be any type of contract that has to do with investing. So definitely there has to be regulation to protect the consumer, and I would support that 100%.
Thank you. And we'll wrap up with Al on the same question.
Derivatives. Okay, I heard Ben Stein speak at the LA Convention Center about this. It's just unbelievable. What Wall Street did was they found out that they could force these banks and the underwriting departments to package $500 million to $1 billion loans in securitized packages, make money off of them, and then sell them worldwide. Whereas because of all these loans that were terrible, because of deregulation of the banking industry, which caused just show up, sign your name, no documentation, just tell us how much you make and we'll take you on Scout's honor, and negative amortizations and other ridiculous loan programs, that they could sell them and make a fortune. So then what they did, Hank Paulson, the very worst person you could have running the Treasury Department at the time, when Lehman Brothers, who insured the derivatives insurance upon the insurance, that to pay off those amounts that were owed was larger than the GDP of America for that year. So Lehman Brothers was let fail by George Bush. Also, I ran into him at the Trancas Market in Malibu shopping, and we spoke about the derivatives problems and the problems with Wall Street and the problems with this happening. As far as banking, there were 5 investment banks. Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch, Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, Smith Barney, 4 of them went down. If you go and you have all the banking power for regular banks and Bank of America, Citibank, Chase Bank, Wells Fargo, 5 banks, they could all crumble the same as the investment banks. Small banks, private enterprise.
Stop it there. We're going to move on, Julia. We'll begin with you on this question. We have several that ask about what you see as your top priorities and what do you see as the 2 greatest challenges that Ventura County faces in the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, certainly the first and foremost priority is to get Ventura County's economic engine going at full speed ahead and getting people back to work. Ventura County's unemployment rate is larger now than the national average. We need to reduce that. Clearly, we've got to get people back to work. Getting people back to work means money is in their pocket and they're spending money, and we're going to continue, that will continue with the economic recovery. So I think that that is first and foremost the issue. And certainly vis-a-vis Ventura County and looking at where are the strong engines for economic growth. And certainly the naval bases are critically important, and we need to do everything we possibly can do to secure that and make sure that there's not a BRAC that comes up that proposes the naval bases here to leave in any way, shape, or form. So that is going to be absolutely critical. And then, of course, I think Port Hueneme is another part of Ventura County's economic engine, and that is to make sure that Ventura County, Port Hueneme continues to thrive and to grow. I believe, I've always said this, that I think Port Hueneme has great potential for great growth, being the only deep water port between Southern and Northern California. Thank you.
Thank you. I know those minute and a half go pretty quickly. Linda, same question to you, your priorities, and what do you see as the 2 greatest challenges facing Ventura County in the 5 to 10 years?
Well, as a Ventura County supervisor, I first thought of the question as for the county of Ventura and what we're looking at right now with the state releasing prisoners and having to put them in jails and not having sufficient capacity, as well as the hit on education and also from the aspect of welfare and Social Security. We have some big issues. But from a congressional perspective, I think the most important thing is that we need to get jobs. We need to help the economy. I have a 10-point job plan, and I'd like to go through that until I'm buzzed out. And that is, first of all, I think that we need to make sure that we increase job training programs in the sectors of the economy that are growing, and particularly for veterans coming back from Afghanistan and other places. We need to be able to see that they can transition back into society. We need to invest government resources in the type of infrastructure that is needed, like our Sacramento Delta, like the bridges that are substandard. We need to keep agriculture a viable industry. It is one of the largest economic generators in our county. We need to support our naval base and protect it from closure, and I've testified at hearings and will continue to do that. We need to attract other businesses because of our high quality of life to our area, and we need to streamline bureaucracy so that we can allow for businesses to expand. And we need to invest, most importantly, in higher education. Right now, the state of California is failing us with expensive tuitions and high debts for our
Have to buzz you in
Thank
right
you.
there, so thank you. And Jess, your priorities and what do you see as the two greatest challenges in Ventura County over the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, my priority is jobs, which is something that I'm very good at doing, and that will continue to be my priority. As far as Naval Base Ventura County is concerned, I led an effort back 8 years ago, which we called Unity of Effort, to work with the United States Navy to help it with its strategic plan to provide money for the Department of Defense that will strengthen our port, that will strengthen the Navy, and keep them viable and safe from another base realignment and closure. This is what I do well, as I mentioned earlier, and this is what I do continuously. What we have been lacking in leadership is an urgency on the federal level to support these issues. The toolbox is there. The Department of Commerce has the ability to help us, but we just need somebody that has to go up to Washington and open that toolbox and bring it down here. Education in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics is vital right now. Our country has hit the tipping point where we are now a majority of minority in this world. And those kids are underserved populations that need education more than ever. If we fail this generation with education, which we are doing right now, we are not going to have the United States of America as we know it. We have to find that money, and there is that money available also for these institutions that serve underserved communities to bring them up and educate them in science, technology, and engineering and mathematics for the jobs of the future. And I have the political will, which has been lacking, to accomplish these things. You can count on it.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Al Goldberg. Al, your priorities if elected, and what do you see as the two greatest challenges?
Well, the challenges are, it's the economy and job, fellow geniuses. And the only way you're going to create jobs with large corporations shrinking and companies going out of businesses is for each and every one of you to go out and try to start a business. When I got to California in 1981, I had a convertible and $48. I started a new DBA every 6 months till I got about 7, 8 businesses going, and I had a multi-million-dollar sales company. If 90 to 95% of the new businesses fail in the first 5 to 10 years, you need to start 10 to get 1 or 2 good ones. Most people start one, give up, throw up their hands, and walk away. Let's talk about solar, biomass, biotech, and the film industry. Those are clean jobs and clean things. And I'm talking about something really ridiculous, because I do that. Basically, I had a relative that worked for a year to start a company for free. It was gamble, it's a chance. And in the first year, if you all went out and started a business or two, that might hit and it worked free. He got the financing for the company, and he grew to one of the largest real estate companies in the world. And I don't agree with the nutritional value of the company, but it's the McDonald's Corporation, and his name is Sonborn. He raised the money from the insurance companies in order to finance the entire thing and came up with a plan to set them apart. You need to start small businesses, you need to start small industries, you'll have to work for free in some cases, you'll have to go out on a limb and take a chance, but that's where you hit a home run, sometimes with the bases loaded. Hewlett-Packard, IBM, and Mattel, they're all small businesses. Now, I have a secret plan to get the women's vote away from Julian.
Al, we're at the minute and a half. Thank you very much for cooperating. David,
I think
start with you. Same question, your priorities and the top 2 challenges.
Yeah, well, I think we all agree that jobs is the biggest priority. We've got to jumpstart this economy and get this country going again. And one big way we do that is helping small businesses. I'm a small business owner myself. I've been self-employed or owned my own business my entire adult life. These are where the jobs are created. This is the engine of our country. If small businesses fail, we all fail. And we have to get that through our heads. The big corporations, they have proper representation. They have the lobbyists back in Washington, D.C. They're well taken care of, but it's the mom and pop operations out there who take all the risk, who are put out all the sweat, and they're the ones that are not getting any kind of support, very little help whatsoever. During this campaign, I've been going around one small business after another, mom and pop operations. And they're stunned to see somebody that's running for Congress there. They've never had anybody there to be able to tell their needs and tell someone what's going on. We have to free up credit for them. The SBA loans are not, I don't know how many, but I've filled those things out. They're not working. And so we've got to free up credit. And the other thing is, the other priority of mine would be congressional reform. We need serious congressional reform in this country. Our system is completely broken. And term limits is one way of doing that. I'm the only one on this stage that signed a term limit pledge. We took a look at it and said 8 years. If 8 years is enough for the President of the United States, it should be more than enough for any member of the House of Representatives. And I have a whole bunch of other ideas I'd love to get into regarding congressional reform, but I'm running out of time.
Thank you. Linda, we'll begin with you on the next question. Let's start getting to some policy issues. I'm going to combine two here. If you were in Congress, which version of the Violence Against Women Act would you vote for? And if you're not familiar, then maybe how you stand on women's rights. And then also, would you vote to repeal the Defense of Marriage Act?
I don't think the Defense of Marriage Act is a fair bill because it impinges on people's civil rights. And as far as the violence on women, I do agree with the extension of it.
Thank you.
Expansion of it, thank you.
Jess, same question to you. The Violence Against Women Act and also repealing the Defense of Marriage Act.
Well, when you mix religion with politics, you get more politics, obviously. You know, our nation is considered the fountain of freedom, and I don't go along with anything that impinges on our civil rights. Of course, I support traditional family values, but I have opposed discrimination of any kind my entire life, and I would also oppose discrimination concerning this. People should have the right to do what they choose to do, as long as it's not impinging on someone else's civic rights. And you know, some people like. Some people like Rocky Road, and some people like Vanilla. Thank you. And I support anything that concerning women's rights, equal pay. I support that there be no violence against women around the world. I support all those issues very strongly for women.
Thank you. And Al, same question to you, your position on the Violence Against Women Act and also the Defense of Marriage Act.
Well, you may not agree with me, but I think any man that would strike a woman is a real wussy. I've thrown a few men across the room for that and enjoyed it. But basically, I've spoken to a lot of women, and a lot of women in this world are abused. They're abused by their older brothers or their fathers, and they are carrying around some baggage, and it's really, really sad what they've gone through, that they've told me they've gone through. Of course, I don't stand a chance to win this election against my two beautiful women opponents, but if I could get all the beautiful girls like you girls in Ventura County, all you lovely, lovely ladies to vote for me, I would win by a landslide. It'd be like Custer at Little Bighorn, or when Godzilla in those old black and white movies stomp all over Tokyo. But yeah, anybody, guys, if you ever see a woman get struck by a man, jump in there. You know, it's a lot of fun. Not striking a woman, but throwing the guy around.
Okay. Thank you. And David, same question to you.
Yes, I would vote to repel DOMA. And then I wasn't supposed to know more on women's health issues than my wife or any other woman, but I do firmly believe in a woman's right to choose, as well as access to reproductive health services as education for all women. And as I mentioned earlier, during this campaign, I've been going around and touring not only small businesses, but homeless shelters and battered women's shelters, and I've been spending quite a bit of time in getting a feel for what's going on in our district, and you can count on me to support women's issues back in Washington, D.C.
Thank you. And Julia, we'll wrap up with you on this question, your position on Violence Against Women Act and also Defense of Marriage Act.
Well, on the Violence Against Women Act, this is a confusing question because that was originally enacted in 1994. That's the act that I would reauthorize if I were in Congress. There have been several other proposals on this issue to not reauthorize and take away some of the protections for women in this act. I mean, this act is about combating domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault. This is critically important, and since 1994, violence actually has dropped by 50%. And many of the House Republicans now in Congress they don't want to reauthorize this, or they want to make some very significant changes. So I would reauthorize the act that was enacted in 1994. In terms of repealing DOMA, absolutely. Actually, I was the legislator in the California legislature who carried the bill to ask Congress to repeal DOMA. So emphatically, yes, I would vote to repeal it.
Okay, thank you. Jess, we're going to begin with you. We haven't talked about Social Security and Medicare, but we have several questions about that. So tell us what you would do to strengthen Social Security and keep it solvent along with Medicare. And do you have any position on supporting income testing or a means test to receive Medicare benefits? So your position on Social Security, Medicare, and means testing.
Compound questions in a minute and a half, David.
It's the only chance I get to ask you tough questions.
I support keeping, of course, Social Security solvent. All Americans should have the right to retire with dignity. We have 75 million Americans out there that do not have any form of retirement. 75 million. And those that have Social Security, that doesn't pay for half of the needs that they require. And this is especially a big burden when we have one of the partners in a relationship die, and then that is cut in half. So we need to find ways and make sure that all Americans have an opportunity to retire with dignity. There's also opportunities, we need to find opportunities for senior citizens that need jobs, because that has become a big issue, I believe. But Social Security, Medicare, these issues should be solvent, and I would work to keep them solvent. You know, we've been calling these things entitlements, and usually around here, entitlement has become a dirty word. They should be called earned benefits, because you have paid into them and you have earned these benefits. So don't let anyone play with the language and tell you that you're not entitled to them or they shouldn't be coming to you. These are your earned benefits. They should not be cut. The government should be stopped from playing with the Social Security, Medicare, and all these other issues, and all these other benefit issues that are really ours. Thank you.
Thank you. Al, your position on Social Security, Medicare, and a means test.
My feeling is that Congress and Senate is pretty corrupt as far as Social Security and Medicare goes. On the back of my card it says, Congress shall make no law that applies only to the senators and representatives that does not apply equally to the citizens of the United States. Why should they have a special health plan, and why should they have special Social Security? One of the first things I want to do is propose that they go ahead and take their Social Security and put it back into the general fund with our Social Security and see how fast, with their money in the same boat as our money, they fix our problems. As far as Medicare, again, Congress is pretty corrupt. I said at the last thing I'd have to do some research. I did some research, and basically there's something called Medicare Part D where people get free prescriptions. But what people don't know, because the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies have gone ahead and given so much money to your congressmen and honest senators, that there is something where they have to pay for their medication at full retail plus. They can't, in the contract, import cheaper medication from Canada or Mexico. I think that we should change that law so that the American drug companies selling the government drugs to give out free should compete at the same prices as other manufacturers and other companies, and even lower. They're stealing us blind from the national and state treasuries, if you haven't noticed. And guys, I need you to vote for me too, because with your help I can win, and then we all win.
Thank you. And our next candidate is David. As far as your positions on Social Security, Medicare, and a means test.
When it comes to Social Security, I speak to my parents every day, and they remind me the importance of Social Security. They are very dependent on it, and we need to make sure that's a promise that we've made to our seniors, paid into it, and we have to honor that. You can count on me to defend Social Security to the very last day. Also, as I go around to these senior citizen homes, and I've been going around to so many of them, I did 2 this morning, and again, another place where you get an earful when it comes to Social Security and making sure that it's protected and defended. And then when it comes to Medicare, as Al just mentioned, Medicare Part D is a bad deal. It is a great deal for pharmaceutical companies, but it's a horrible deal for
for the rest of the population, for the rest of the recipients. So,
Thank you. Julia, same question to you on Social Security, Medicare, and a means test.
So on Medicare, I absolutely will support and defend and protect Medicare. And I think there's no question that Medicare in Washington now is under siege. It's been, the House Republicans have proposed several different budgets to really utterly gut Medicare. So this is a really important issue that we must absolutely fight for. And I think that you need to be clear that you can't, support the Bush tax cuts for the very, very wealthy and say that you're going to protect Medicare. You can't say both of those things. And I think that's what Republicans are trying to get away with in Washington. And I don't think we can allow them to say that because it just can't happen otherwise. And Social Security as well is, I will fight and defend Social Security as we know it. We need to figure out a longer-term plan for Social Security. But again, I think House Republicans in Washington, their plan is to privatize Social Security and take that money that has been in that lockbox for us and seniors to take advantage of when retirement comes. They want to take that money and gamble it away on Wall Street. And so I would absolutely vehemently oppose that and will continue to fight ardently for both Medicare and Social Security.
Thank you, Julia. Linda, we'll wrap up with you on this one, your positions, Social Security.
Thank you. And while Julia Brownlee has sent mailers out saying that I would end Medicare as we know it and Social Security, let me repeat actually her words, which I will absolutely support and defend Medicare. I will absolutely support and defend Social Security. And I agree, it is something that we earn in terms of Social Security. And I don't believe that unless we increase taxes, there's no other way it means I'm going to want to get rid of Medicare. I think there's a lot of things we can do, including end the war in Afghanistan, which will save money, including ending corporate tax loopholes. I don't think corporations should be able to get off with no taxes, for example. I think that there is Medicare fraud that we can deal with, and it needs to be dealt with. I think we can provide health care for less cost and have it be better quality. For example, at the County of Ventura, we have reduced the cost of prescription medication by $8 million a year. That's just one little county in all of the United States. And that's because we were able to work with the private sector and buy in bulk and be able to reduce those costs. We can emphasize preventative care. That would also reduce costs. So I don't see things as completely black and white that, if you don't do, tax increases, therefore you're going to end Medicare. I think we have a lot of opportunity. It's a tremendous budget out there in Washington. We need to look at it more carefully and see where we can reduce costs and still preserve Medicare and Social Security. Thank you.
Okay, Al, we're going to begin with you on the next round of questions, and instead of policy, let's talk about style. So what are some of the examples of how you work with other people in the other party? What would you do to work with both Democrats and Republicans in Congress?
Well, that's just it. As the moderator at the Cal Lutheran University said, that's the rub. It doesn't work together. I go to nolabels.com or .org. They have suggestions where Democrats and Republicans have to sit next to each other. They have to talk. They have to have other meetings. I supported that. It's tough, because to give you an example, all of the brochures, the mailers that are being done against Linda, it's because Linda was a Democrat, and the Democrats are mad at her, and the Democrats in Congress are mad at the Republicans, and the Republicans are mad at the Democrats because Linda said, oops, redistricting, I could be a Republican. And it's a genius move. She's a very bright strategist, and then for this, because she can get more votes being either Democrat or Republican, Democrats and Republican Party were kind of politely thrown under the bus, and she's going for the win, just like Julia's going for the win. So when things like that happen, Democrats and Republicans, like cats and dogs, like fire and ice, they fight each other. The thing is that we need to replace the entire Congress, and I want to pass that Buffett amendment, and I want anyone that votes against it in Congress, the next election cycle, let's get ordinary people like myself that isn't a professional politician to run for Congress and replace these bums.
Okay, David, we'll go to you. Let me repeat the question so you can give the answer you want. Give some examples from your past of how you've cooperated with people in the other party, and what are some of the things you'll do to work with both Democrats and Republicans if elected?
Well, one thing, does everybody know that what the definition of Congress means? It means to collaborate. Okay? It means to get along. Something that's just not happening. And one thing that's happening is that these party labels are killing us. Democrats not wanting to do something because that's a good Republican idea. Republicans not wanting to do something because that's a good Democratic idea. And we got to start putting our country first. We got to start doing what's best for our country, not so much for party. The party stuff is killing us. I'm talking a lot about the importance of congressional reform. It's something I'm very passionate about. The term limit pledge I mentioned earlier, I'm the only one in this race that signed a term limit pledge. And the importance of voting electronically from your district office, another idea that I've come up with. You should be able to cast your vote electronically, surrounded by voters, not going back to Washington, D.C., where you're surrounded by special interests, lobbyists, and party bosses, and you're outnumbered 5-1. You know, it used to take a couple of years before a member of Congress would get corrupted. But now it's happening during before someone even gets to Congress. These super PACs are coming in and trying to buy elections. They're coming in and candidates are coming in with their special interest money, their corporate money, and their super PAC money, and trying to buy these things. And there's already candidates on the stage that have already been bought. So long before they even get to Washington, D.C., they've already been bought and sold.
Thank you. Julia, same question to you. Experience cooperating or working with others in the other party, and how will you do that in Washington with Democrats and Republicans?
Well, thank you. I've had 18 years of public service, 12 years as a school board member, and almost finishing 6 years in the legislature. And both at the local level, I worked very successfully with Republicans in the community of which I lived. And I've worked very successfully in the legislature with Republicans, and have actually co-authored bills with Republicans, and had Republicans work with me on particular bills. And I have sent bills and been signed by both a Republican governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and a Democratic governor, Jerry Brown. So a couple of examples. I co-authored a bill with Joel Anderson just a year or so ago about a bill to allow school districts to sell old textbooks to provide some more revenue in their district. I carried a bill with Senator Sheila Kuehl to clean up Santa Susana Field Lab, and worked with my Republican colleagues who helped me move that bill through the Assembly. But you know, there are real issues sometimes that we need to really fight for, real issues that affect real people, and I will continue to fight for those important issues, but I will do so also working collaboratively with the other side of the aisle, and I think I will take that experience to Washington with me.
Thank you. Linda, some examples for you of working with the other party, and what would you do in Washington to work with both parties?
Well, one of the main reasons I'm an independent is because I believe strongly that Republicans and Democrats need to work together, and that isn't happening. And it is because of the hyper-partisanship that's going on, where, for example, Ms. Brownlee can't get the disclosure bill that is a good bill passed because she can't get Republican support. I was able to get campaign reform approved at the City of Thousand Oaks, which was a split board of Republicans and Democrats. Also, I was able to actually get approved something that I'm being criticized for, which is a park in Santa Rosa Valley, which was approved both by the City of Thousand Oaks helping to fund it, as well as the County of Ventura. I've also stopped lawsuits by being able to put people in a room from the Triumphant Sanitation District that was suing Las Virgenes Municipal Water District. Just put them in a room, and in one day I was able to get that settled. I was also able to work to see that we got to the sheriff and the DA that were suing us to settle that. But I think most importantly, we need to have the hyper-partisanship stop. And unless people are going to come together and agree to work with both sides of the aisle, nothing is going to change. And it is true, special interest money has a lot to do with it. And that's why I'm not taking any special interest money. I'm not taking money from the PACs like my colleague. I'm not taking any money from unions or corporations. I am endorsed by unions, but I'm not taking any money. And that leaves me free and uninfluenced by special interests. Thank you.
Jess, same question to you about examples from your past cooperating with the other party, and what will you do in Washington to work?
You know, there's no saying that says, for those who would understand, no explanation is necessary. For those who would not, no explanation is ever possible. And that goes along with being bipartisan. I've been in a nonpartisan office for 5 elections. I've been endorsed by high-ranking elected Republican and Democratic officials. Why? Because I do a good job, and I make things happen. I have worked with a board that is both Republican and Democrat. You know, there's good people on both sides of the aisle. You just have to know how to work with people and how to be a good negotiator and how to build trust. And you do that by increments. You build that trust and you build that understanding and you move forward because you come to the realization that you are doing this for the people that you serve. On the way up here, my wife was telling me that she ran into somebody, this is something that's been following me around, criticizing me because I had worked well with Elton Gallagher, my congressman. Well, Elton Gallagher was my congressman. I was trying to accomplish something for naval-based Ventura County and for the community of this district. And I worked with him, and I worked well with him, and we were able to get those things done. Now, if you understand that that's for the good of this community, then no explanation is necessary. If you can't understand that, then no explanation will ever be possible. Thank you.
Thank you. We will start with you. Let's talk about immigration. We have a range of questions from both ends of the spectrum. On one hand, there are hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of documented non-Americans who are currently working here, taking jobs from Americans. What would you do to stop this, and are you even aware it's happening? On the other end of the spectrum, we have about 43% of this new district is Latino. So what commitments will you make and specific actions will you take to strengthen the Voting Rights Act and work with the changing minority? So give us your views on immigration, trying to answer both of those questions.
Sure. Immigration is a very, very important issue of mine that I'm talking a lot about. It's a political football that nobody wants to deal with back in Washington, D.C., and it's something that I want to deal with right away. We have to create a pathway to citizenship. We have millions upon millions of folks here who are working hard, who are doing the right things, who are contributing to our country. We're a country of immigrants, and we need to make sure we create a pathway to citizenship. They're not going back. We're not going to be rounding them up in the middle of the night and shipping them. That's not going to happen. We have to work with them and get them on creating a path. We got to create this pathway to citizenship. COPA is a great idea that's out there right now. I know many people don't know about it, but it's a great initiative that's out there that I support that helps create this pathway to citizenship. And the way I always look at it is, as a father of 4 and trying to always provide for my family, if I knew that over that fence, if you were to cross that, I knew if I could cross that and I would be able to provide for my family and lift them up, I would do it every single time. And that's what people are doing. And we keep talking about the folks who are here, the criminals, but that's just such a tiny little bit. The majority of people that are here, the far mass majority, are here for the right reasons. And we need to create that pathway.
Thank you. Julia, same question to you, looking at the spectrum of immigration issues, representing a 43% minority district, but also dealing with documented workers displacing Americans.
Well, again, I agree we need to have comprehensive immigration reform, and we are a nation of immigrants, and we need to take a very common sense approach to this. And we need to be very clear and careful to not unnecessarily damage economic competitiveness and ensure that families stay together and ensure that all workers and businesses pay their fair share of taxes. And so this is an essential issue that I think needs to be dealt with in Congress, and we must address this issue of comprehensive immigration reform. But no one here in Ventura County or anywhere else in our country should have to live in the shadows, and we shouldn't condone an economy that is in the shadows. So I will work hard on this particular issue. With a growing population of Latinos in Ventura, that should be celebrated. It's a wonderful thing for Ventura County, and I will certainly, as someone who has been a legislator before, I try very hard to listen, to seek guidance, to seek counsel, to understand what the issues are, the most compelling issues are, and I will continue to do that as if I am elected your congresswoman, to really connect with my Latina brothers and sisters and determine their issues and help to solve them.
Thank you. And Linda, we'll move on to you with the same question. The 43% of the district is Latino, and what about American workers being displaced?
We are a nation of immigrants. We are also a nation of laws. And to me, it's kind of dumbfounding when you go driving through the Ventura County and see that our fields are being picked by people who came into our country illegally. And 90% of these people are undocumented. So to me, we need to provide not necessarily a pathway to citizenship, because we do have one, but rather a pathway to residency so that they don't have to live in the shadows. And I think that we need to be able to assure at the level of Congress that we can have that debate in an honest fashion, because so much of what's going on now is so, well, like the attack mill, it's just ideologues pushing and posturing, and unless we come together, we're not going to deal with this. And it is something that both Democrats and Republicans want to see. We do need that kind of comprehensive immigration reform, and we're not going to get it as long as we continue to, posture and not come to the table. I also agree it's really important to be able to listen and to be able to hear. And I've gone and I've met with leaders of farm worker women, and to hear about their plights in terms of, for example, the exposure to pesticides, to hear about the fears that they have of being, dropping their child off from school and ending up getting deported. So we definitely need to address it, and we definitely need to hear.
Thank you. Jess, same question to you about the 43% of the district Latino, and also about documented workers who are taking jobs that American workers are losing out on.
Well, first of all, I don't think American workers are losing out on any jobs in the field, to be perfectly honest with you. I think that we do need to secure our borders for our national interests. We do have to make sure that no Americans are being displaced by any foreign worker that's not here legally. Those are certainly things that we have to do. And then thirdly, I think we have to find a way to making these people legal to work here. I think that would be the first step that we need to take. When you do go by the fields and you see all these people working in the farms there from like 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning, and as Linda mentioned, you know that half of them are undocumented, and that the Farm Board actually puts that on their website, that half of these people are undocumented. We do have to do something about this. We are a land of laws, but we're also a land of justice, and it's not justice to take these people and use them and then want to toss them aside. There's certainly strength in our diversity, and we have to help these folks. A lot of them are stopped of getting into the system because of the cost, the language barrier, and just timid. They're just timid about a lot of these things. In 1996, I was chairman of the USA Citizen Action Network, and we put together a program that helped over 2,000 people become legal citizens, and the only cost to them was $46. We had police departments, the INS, volunteers, and everyone else, attorneys, working to help these people through the process and get them here. So what we need is leadership like that, that takes action, that helps these people, and not just rhetoric.
Thank you. And Hal, we'll wrap up with you on immigration.
Immigration is a worldwide problem, but let's look at the United States. In 1930, my mom was born in Nazi Germany. In 1933, my grandfathers were thrown in jail for beating up someone saying bad things about Jews. They went to Amsterdam, had a factory, and in their warehouse from 33 to 40 in Holland, they smuggled hundreds of families all over the world. My mom had to wait from 1940 to 1945 to become an American citizen. These are the laws. Judeo-Christian Laws coming down from the Ten Commandments show that you should obey the laws. If Congress wants immigration reform, let through the representatives of the people be passed. And if that's the new law, that should be the new law. I'm disappointed I couldn't speak at the Latino Forum. I was banned in Boston because they said I spoke to the wrong person for my reservation, but I have family in Mexico, Peru, Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, Puerto Rico, the United States, and Canada. Our family's in 17 countries. In Europe, we're in Switzerland, Germany, Austria, Poland, Norway, Sweden, Scandinavia, Holland, Italy, France, Bulgaria, England, Australia, South Africa, and Israel. We were, got a letter from David Ben-Gurion, our family, the George Washington of Israel, for thanking us for 3 years before the statehood was declared, raising millions and millions of dollars to buy surplus warships, one they did the Exodus movie about, ambulances, going to, well, immigration is a problem all over the world. The laws are the laws, and there shouldn't be special exceptions.
We'll have to stop you there. Okay, we have a lot of questions, many of them individual, but I do want to give all of the candidates a chance to talk about education. We have several questions about education, and Julia, you're up first on this one. So, would you support direct funding of school districts on a per-student basis by passing the budgets and decisions, or bypassing state legislatures? So, as a congressperson, would you support direct funding to school districts? And can you talk a little bit about your views of strengthening alien community colleges and other systems?
Well, on the first question, I obviously at school finance in California is, and the way we distribute money, I think is, we've got to really take that off the table and recreate the system, because it is very complex and convoluted and no longer really reflects what we're trying to achieve, which is student outcomes. But to answer the question directly, I do believe the legislature should appropriate the money. We need to appropriate more money. Prop 98 is a formula that protects the floor and not protects the ceiling, and it should just be the floor. But we need to give school districts the flexibility that they need, particularly in these tougher economic times when there's less money to be distributed. School districts need more and more flexibility, and Sacramento needs to kind of create accountability so that we are looking for outcomes and achievement, and particularly student achievement. So the other question was with regards to community colleges. Community colleges are an essential education institution. Community colleges is the working class institution. Community colleges provide the opportunity for students, any student in California, to go to college, and community colleges provide transfer to higher education and career technical education.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a lot to answer in a minute and a half. So, Linda, same question to you about, do you support changes in the funding mechanism to school districts on a per-student basis, essentially bypassing the state? And where do you stand on solutions for alien community colleges?
Well, I am very concerned that the state is not prioritizing education. I don't think it's the federal role then to step in. Those things are pretty darn bad. They're talking about ending enrollment in 2014, and the Cal State Channel Islands is being affected, as well as all the Cal State. In addition, the UCs are charging so much in tuition that it's no longer affordable to middle class. And the community colleges, the most essential for people just to get something like automotive job training. They're closing that down at Oxnard College. And it's because the state is not coming forward with the money. They can put money into prisons, but they're not putting money into education. And so while I think Julia Brownlee has her heart in the right place, we need to be able to have someone who can actually get both Republicans and Democrats in the state legislature to actually prioritize education. Why isn't that happening? And from a federal perspective, I don't like the idea that the federal government would tell teachers in the classroom, how to teach. And what we have right now with the No Child Left Behind law is you have teachers basically teaching to the test, and that is failing our students. So I think education is so very important, not only for our economy and job growth, for our future and for our children. And watching what's happening now, it's just it needs to be fixed, and it needs to be fixed at the state level particularly.
Thank you, Linda. And Jess, keep it going with you. Your positions on changing the funding mechanism to school districts, and your thoughts about community colleges and supporting them, strengthening them.
Okay. Well, 40%, as we know, of our state budget goes to education, and they're looking at increasing that by 16%. I think we have to look at ways of finding new means of also providing funds for our community colleges and education in general. California is one of the states that does not have an oil extraction tax, and I think this is something that we could use to fund education. Right now, Texas is using this oil extraction tax, and it's bringing in about $3.2 billion for education. California could be doing this because it is California land, it is state land, it is land that belongs to the people, and the revenue generated therefrom should also go back to the people, and I can't think of a better place than education. Also, we have to approach these world-class customers that are doing business in our community and tell them it's time to partner with our colleges so that we can have the type of vocational training that's necessary for the 21st century for our kids. If you visit small businesses, they'll tell you that we're losing out on the type of jobs that are no longer being taught in school. Auto mechanic was mentioned as one of them, but it sounds very basic, that these are the types of jobs that are slipping away. And the other jobs in the technical fields are also slipping away. My wife teaches science, technology, engineering, and mathematics at the community college in partnership with the universities, and I see what a difference it makes to our kids when they get into these classes, and it's amazing the things that they're accomplishing. Thank you.
Al, same question to you.
Okay, when I got to California in 1981 with 48 bucks in a convertible, and the saying was in California the streets are paved with gold, now they're paved with people with signs that say I won't work for food. Community college was free. It was the crown jewel, the shining star of the entire education system in California. And I forget if it was Wilson or Duke Major that put the fee on. I went to a private film directing school in Santa Monica, and I went to Santa Monica Community College for real estate and film courses. Now they're rioting because they triple the rates in the summer. I mean, there's unrest all over the world in all kinds of governments. There's revolutions in the Middle East, there's revolutions in Africa, there's riots and people discontent with their government in Europe. So if you look at the school system and the fraud and corruption that's involved there, Los Angeles Santa Monica School District is a perfect example. At the last League of Women Voters Forum, came up, No Child Left Behind. Everybody agreed. I said, I know I'm not a politician, I'm supposed to tell you what you want to hear. I got to talk fast as 30 seconds, but it doesn't work. It's broken. Teachers have told me since then it's called No Student Left Standing because 40 cents of every dollar from the state goes to education. 20 cents of that goes to administrators and their pensions, and the kids never see a penny of that for education. It's wasted, squandered, stolen, and it's a corrupt system. The whole thing needs to be overhauled.
Thank you. David, your positions on education, the funding mechanism, and also strengthening the community colleges.
Well, my father was a school teacher for 33 years, and my sister is a school teacher up in Seattle, Washington, and I try to spend as much time as I can volunteering in my kids' classroom, going in and seeing firsthand what's happening. And I can tell you these teachers are under so much stress and so much pressure to teach to these tests, and that has to change immediately. Unless that happens, we're losing out on so many great teachers. They're choosing to go into other professions and into other fields. And we have to allow these great teachers to do what they wanted to get into, and that's to teach, not to teach to these tests. So that's something that obviously needs to be changed right away. Tenure is something that we need to take a good hard look at, and I think it's something that's really, really hurting our education system and needs to be reformed. And when it comes to community colleges, I've been spending a lot of time at Oxnard College. I've been endorsed by the student body president there, and I've spent a lot of time out there listening to students and hearing what's going on. And these are really the colleges for the working class and the middle class and the poor, and they're just being basically assaulted
And we have to make sure we do everything we possibly can to protect those schools.
Okay, thank you. And we have a ton of questions. Many of them are directed at individual candidates. I'm going to try to do my best to get some of those in right now. Linda, you're up first on this one. And Linda, you have said previously that you would not vote to repeal the Bush tax cuts for the wealthy, but that cutting deficits is very important. The question is, what specific programs would you cut to reach $1 trillion in savings?
I think you're quoting me wrong, Mr. Marion.
Well,
what I said is,
it
is my belief that I don't want to go to having to increase taxes when there are other things that we can do. I'm not a die-hard one way or the other, and I think that's part of the problem that we have. I'm willing to talk, I'm willing to negotiate, and I'm willing to work. And I understand how important it is that we have a huge deficit. And we're about to see another battle for that deficit ceiling. And I'll tell you right now, if the right wing and the Tea Party are going to push it again till we get to the brink, that is going to hurt not only our nation, but the global economy. So I think it's important not to have people that are strident one way or the other, but actually willing to come to the table. I mentioned previously some of the things that I would look at from getting our troops home from Afghanistan. That will save money. From better, more efficient ways of doing health care, because that is a large cost to our government. There are several programs that I can see that we can look at for efficiencies. There is a lot of Medicare fraud, for example. That needs to be dealt with. And I don't consider having corporations have to pay their fair share as a tax increase. I actually think that we all need to pay our fair share. And yeah, sometimes it is going to hurt, but it is really important, I think, to make sure that we can protect our economy. And we're seeing horrible things happen in Greece right now for failure of their ability to protect it.
Thank you. Jess, a couple of questions for you. I'm going to sort of combine them, but number one is you've raised less money than some of the other Democrats on this panel, and you also are, phrase this right, so you've raised the least amount of money of some of these candidates, and what will you do to try and, or what makes you think you'll be able to be elected? And if elected, how do you plan to represent the East County?
Well, unless they have a different type of human beings on the East County than they do on the West County, I guess I would have a difficulty. But since we're all the same, I think we're the same species here, aren't we? East County, would you raise your hand so I can recognize what species you are? West County. So, you know, I think, you know, there's homes in foreclosure in Thousand Oaks, and there's homes in foreclosure in Oxnard and Ventura. I think we're all suffering from the same issues here. I think I'm quite capable of recognizing what the issues is. As a homegrown person here in Ventura County my entire life, I understand what you have been through and what you are living through right now, and I understand the issues that are facing people around the kitchen table. So East County, West County is no different. You may be earning more on the East County than they are earning on the West County, but we still have the same problems. We're still trying to put our kids through school. We're still trying to pay our mortgages. I don't think I would have any problem working with people in the East or West County. As I say, we're all facing the same problems, and especially those are the problems that I'm very good at solving. I'm a very good negotiator. I know how to work with people. I know how to build those bridges, and I know how to get things done. And in the final analysis, that's what we need. Someone that knows how to get things done. Thank you.
Thank you. Al, the question to you, the person in the audience is stating that you had a deadline of May 11th to submit a response to the Federal Election Commission, I believe. And have you submitted that response? It was regarding an inquiry about your committee. And if you have responded, what did you say?
Okay. No, I think I missed that one because it would take me about 10 or 20 hours. And when I ran in for Congress in 2000, they called them, and I called them again this time, and they said it would cost me a penalty of about $200. So I have to judge what is a man's time worth. You can value your time at $8 an hour. You can value your time at $100 an hour. Or there have been years where I've made $400,000 or $500,000 or more. You can value your time at $1,000 an hour. For me to spend 10 to 20 hours doing all this paperwork where I can pay $200 and spend 10 to 20 hours out there talking to the voters, I'll do it. So I checked with them and they said, sure, you can file it after, but there's a $200 penalty. I'm willing to pay that to spend my time campaigning, talking to the people, as opposed to some of my opponents, not all of them, who are talking to the PACs and the big dollar donors. Now, as far as corruption goes, someone asked a question about people go there and they're corrupted. My dad said that in life, no matter what you do, you should always have fun. I'm having a great time at this because I love the competition and I love the excitement and the enthusiasm, even though there's all these people slinging mud and dirt at you, and it's like not cool, it's not professional, and it's not following the rules of God and the Ten Commandments and some of the things that they're saying. But what it is, you know, I got here with almost nothing. I built $1 million company, I lost that. I built another fortune, I'm fighting to hold on to that. So no matter how broke I am, money doesn't matter how wealthy I am. The idea is to have fun and be a good person. Some of you guys may not got that memo.
Okay, David, the question to you, and this must have been based on something you said earlier. Did you mean to say earlier that members of Congress should be able to vote from their home state? That they should not have to be in Washington to actually vote? Could you clarify, please?
You bet, absolutely, that is correct. Why do they want you back in Washington, D.C.? When you go back there, ladies and gentlemen, when you see the meetings that they're taking, members of Congress, they're not taking meetings with you and me. They're taking meetings with special interests, lobbyists, and party bosses all day long. They're outnumbered 5 to 1. You've got to get them out of Washington, D.C. With technology being the way it is, we should be able to vote securely from our district office. I would have a district office here in Thousand Oaks. I want to be surrounded by voters. I want to be surrounded by the people who, the constituents and the voters who helped put me there. Not by lobbyists, not by party bosses. Okay? And so that's something that's I'm very, very passionate about, and we've been talking a lot about. And again, the corruption that it used to take several years before these members of Congress used to cave in. So many would go back there. I think their intentions were good, their intentions were pure, but they hang around these folks so long that they end up caving after a period of time. Those folks end up contributing to their campaigns, and another vicious cycle starts. And we have to break that. There's things like Skype, video conferencing. You should only have to go back to Washington, D.C. once or twice a year. And also the expense to the taxpayers of that member of Congress, having the staff back in Washington, D.C. of 25, 30 staff members, and all of that could come to a halt. And again, this video conference, this video electronic voting, I think is the way to do that.
Thank you. Julia, the question to you. You have been silent on some of the concerns Linda has raised regarding the Democratic literature purporting to describe her thinking. Would you please answer those concerns?
Well, there's been obviously some mail out there that is done by the Democratic, the DCCC mail. I think it's probably a little bit over the top, but there's mail out there. And I really would encourage everyone who objects to call the DCCC and call them and express your concerns. But I will make one point, and I have also have my own mail out there, and I've said it earlier in this forum, and that is, I don't know how you can protect or defend the Bush tax cuts for the very, very wealthy, and also protect Medicare. And I don't know how you say that you might caucus with the Republicans when you get to Congress, when it is the House Republicans who are presenting time and time again budget proposals that want to gut Medicare. And so I'll stand by that issue. The other mail piece, call DCCC.
How about the women's right to choose?
Linda, we're going to move on to the next question, and you can answer when you wish. Linda, as you would expect, there's quite a few cards here asking for, and we've been through this before, who did you vote for president in 2008? Who will you be voting for president this fall? And if elected, will you vote for a Democrat as speaker? Who will you caucus with? You know what these questions are asking, and I'll give you a minute and a half to respond.
Are you now, or have you ever been, a member of for 21 years I was a Democrat. For 16 years I was a Republican. The Republican Party has changed. I am no longer a Republican. I'm an independent.
Please hold the class.
I would like to, if I may continue, Mr. Mayor, and I don't think my time is up.
You have
I think that it is very telling that what I'm being attacked for, and this is a mailer from Julia Brownlee saying I'm not for pro-choice, and that really bothers me. It also says that I want to end Medicare, that really bothers me. But besides the fact that people who are supporting Julia Brownlee are paying for these mailers, I want to point out that there's a lot more issues that we have to deal with than the partisanship. Think about it. How many here, for example, might be married to someone from the opposite party? I was, and I am now. And I think it's really important to know that that hyper-partisanship is causing these mailers to go out. What worse thing can you call someone if you're a Democrat? Julia Brownlee saying I was really a Republican. That's like the worst thing you can call someone. What if you're a Republican? What's the worst thing you can call someone? Well, Audra Strickland was calling me a Democrat. And that whole idea is what's wrong. And these kind of horrible attack mailers attacking me for my not being in a party is what's wrong with Congress right now.
Linda, thank you. Okay, we'll move on. And Jess, we have a question for you. And that is, can you tell us a little bit about your views on the bullet train and also global warming?
Well, I did take a ride on one bullet train, and that was in Shanghai, and they go very fast. That's on the bullet train. Now, as far as climate change is concerned, I'm sure, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, so I'm sure that us being here on Earth is causing something to happen. The emissions from our automobiles and everything else certainly make a difference. We do have to take a new look at how we harness wind, solar, and every other type of energy that's available to us. Unfortunately, we can't all be driving electric cars because they're more expensive than even an economy car. And some cars have stopped being produced now, unfortunately. For example, at the Port of Hueneme, we're doing everything that we can to generate electrical power so that we don't have any emissions going out into the atmosphere, and we've cut down on our NOx considerably. We have a clean truck program there that's also being very successful to turn over trucks into clean burning fuels. Vessels are doing the same thing. So I am concerned with our environment, and we are taking steps, and I have personally participated in those steps to have a green port, and that's the business that I'm involved in right now, and that's what we're doing there. You have to understand, too, that energy is extremely important to our national defense. The Department of Defense is the single largest industrial user of energy in the world. So we do have to find those types of energies that will meet the needs of our national defense in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. And Al, same question to you. Your position on the bullet train, would you support federal funding for that, of course? And what is your position on global warming?
Okay, let's address global warming first. I know a little bit about science. I read Sir Isaac Newton's book on optics and followed in 2 or 3 different languages when I was in high school because I was inspired by an environmental professor who gave me a book. It was so far ahead of its time that the oil companies, through the Reagan administration, stopped printing. It's for every action, there's a reaction, equal force and opposite direction. As far as global warming, that data was falsified. There were, as far as science goes, there's true science and there's false science. It's unfortunate that it was falsified, but they used to say, the scientists, that if Columbus were to sail off the edge of the earth, he would fall off and be eaten by sea monsters. I think it was Galileo, I'm not sure. When you get this old, you can't remember everything. He was declared a heretic or a lunatic, one of those ticks, for saying that the earth revolved around the sun. As far as global warming goes, the scientists said that it just isn't happening. They falsified some documentation, so that's a shame. As far as the bullet train goes, like I said, on Medicare, I need to do more research. I did more research. I found out about the D and the lobbies. But it's good. We need high-speed transportation. To give you an example, Senate and Congress fined General Motors, Chevron, and one other company, Firestone, for in the 50s, I learned this in a film class, tearing up the red car and designing the freeway so everyone would need a car, creating more pollution, more rubber, more gas, and now we're paying for a second time to rebuild rail in LA.
Stop you there. Thank you. David, same question to you. Your position on funding for high-speed rail and also global warming, your views.
Well, I think high-speed rail is an important, we need to have high-speed rail in this country. We're very behind when you look at many of our competitors around the world. They have it, we don't. And when you look at our transportation problems, not only in this country, but especially in our state, it definitely indicates that we need high-speed rail. I'm a big supporter of it. The current system that we have, the one that we have on the board right now, the big picture of it, I always like the big idea of it, but when we look at the specifics and the details of it, it's very concerning. And I think we need to go back to the drawing board when it comes to high-speed transportation, high-speed rail. But I'm very committed to it.
Thank you. Julia, same question to you. Your positions on federal funding for high-speed rail and also the effects of global warming. What are your views?
On higher speed rail, I am, again, very supportive of the concept. Actually met with Ray LaHood, Secretary of Transportation, maybe 6 weeks or so ago, about this issue. Clearly, it's a priority for the Obama administration and the Secretary. And I'm very supportive, and I think we in California and in the nation need to come up with better transit systems in our country. The concern I have in the moment, being in the legislature, is with regards to the cost and the budget and so forth, and making sure that we really get that right. There is no question in my mind that as the population grows in California, and it will grow, that's a true fact, by expanding more and more airports is not going to be the solution. And I think that we need to be forward thinking and looking into the future and figuring out how to do high-speed rail, but do it responsibly with the money that we have. With regards to AB 32, one of the best pieces of legislation ever signed in the state of California, and I think AB 32's goals are right on, and I think AB 32 is already, we're seeing it happen, leverage new technologies and innovations, new types of automobiles here in California that is going to be great for California's economy.
Thank you. And Linda, same question to you. Your views on global warming and also support for high-speed rail.
Well, I think the high-speed rail project that we've got going in the state of California has turned into a boondoggle. I think that's something like $1 million just in consultant fees went out before they've done any plans. Tremendous amounts of money, poor planning in terms of looking at trying to get one little section near Fresno instead of going where it's needed the most. So there's a lot of concerns with that, and I also have concerns about the special interests that might be pushing some agendas with it. But I agree, we need to be able to fund mass transit and transit means buses here in Ventura County. And right now we have some buses that are standing room only and not the funds to increase that service. A lot of that has to do with the federal government and how they do spend funds. For example, we're paying $12 million for 950 people to ride MetroLink. Well, it's nice that they can ride MetroLink, but those monies could be used to help considerably more people get on the bus. We need to be able to find better ways for kids to be able to get to school on the bus too when they need to. But let me get to the question about climate change. There's no doubt that man has an effect on climate change, and there are many things that we can do. And I was on the Air Resources Board Regional Targets Advisory Committee that looked at not only how to do it through standing facilities like smokestacks, automotive and transit and transportation caused greenhouse gas emissions, but also just the concept of land use and what we can do to make cities more walkable so people don't have to drive or commute.
Thank you. Before I go on to the next question, I'll just remind the audience, one of the things that the League does when we invite these candidates is we let them know that there is no independent video recording. It's out of respect to the candidates, that they don't have to worry about somebody using their image out of context. The City of Thousand Oaks is televising this. It's available on TOTV, and we'll have information. But if anyone here does have a video camera, I respectfully ask you to please not use it. Okay, we have not talked about foreign policy, and arguably this is one of the most important areas of what a representative is involved in. And Al, we'll begin with you. The person is asking, what are your views on foreign policy, especially in important areas such as a nuclear North Korea, working with China, Iran, and Afghanistan?
Let me write that down. China, Iran,
North
and
Korea
Afghanistan.
and Afghanistan.
North Korea. Well, the nuclear problems in Iran and North Korea, as I said at the last debate, that, the Manhattan Project, which was brought together by a lot of German refugees, scientists, Einstein, who a genealogical society emailed me, I'm related to, but I don't believe it, and Oppenheimer created this. It's a terrible destructive force when you use it against people. It can be used for good to create energy, but it is very dangerous, as we see in Japan and at San Onofre. As far as Iran and Afghanistan, I don't understand it. I grew up in New York City, and my friends and I used to have elevator races in the World Trade Center. We each take a different elevator, so we get to the top first, people getting on and off. Can I help you with those boxes, ma'am? And 10 or 11 of the terrorists came out of Saudi Arabia, a company that nationalized the oil companies, that took away billions of dollars of assets from Exxon, Chevron, Texaco, the whole gamut of them. Why we went into Afghanistan, and I know why we went into Iran, because Saddam Hussein in the biggest hotel had Bush as a criminal in the tile, according to the LA Times. And but Saudi Arabia, who stole billions of dollars from the oil companies where the terrorists came from, why we went into Iran and Afghanistan is beyond me. Why didn't we go into where the terrorists came from? With the force and money we used, we could have got those oil fields back.
Okay, thank you, Al. Same question to you, David. Your views on foreign policy, especially North Korea, China, Iran, Afghanistan.
Well, when it comes to, I think one of our most important things that we need to be talking about is Afghanistan. And one question we need to ask ourselves, why are we still there? I don't understand why we're still there. We've accomplished everything that we're going to accomplish there. We need, if you look at the not only human toll, but the amount of tour of duties that we're asking our men and women to be at, it's just gone, they're exhausted. We've overextended them, and we've really almost asked too much of them. It's time to return our troops back. And the other thing is we cannot afford, we need to get our financial house in order. We can no longer afford these wars. I mean, we couldn't afford them in the first place, but we need to do absolutely everything we possibly can to bring our troops home and bring them back immediately. And I think Afghanistan we need to do that. And when it comes, I think Iran is the big major problem that we're going to have, and we need to make sure we defend our partners in the Middle East, and that's Israel, our strongest and most important allies. So we need to, I think the President's doing a very good job of monitoring that and doing everything he possibly can behind the scenes to make sure there's not any conflict there. But if there is conflict, we need to make sure we support Israel.
Thank you. Julia, your views on foreign policy covering North Korea, China, Iran, Afghanistan.
Well, I'll start with Afghanistan, and I certainly believe and have said before that we need to withdraw our troops as quickly as we possibly can, obviously without compromising any kind of security for the U.S. And we need to work, the U.S. needs to work with the people of Afghanistan to try to very much form a stable government there as well. With North Korea, they need to get rid of their nuclear arsenal, and I think the United States at this particular point is emphasizing diplomacy. I think we need to continue down that path at the moment. I think it's moving slowly, but I think diplomacy and an effort to really have success, I guess, is the route of diplomacy. And then with Israel, I've been challenged on this issue a couple of different times, and I just want to say unequivocally that I do not support Iran acquiring any kind of nuclear capacity. I don't think it's in Israel's best interest strike Iran unilaterally at this particular point in time. We need to work with our partners and our allies to build coalitions in the Middle East. But let me say, Israel is one of our strongest allies, and I will support Israel unequivocally.
Thank you. Linda, same questions to you. Your views on foreign policy, especially around North Korea, China, Iran, Afghanistan.
Thank you. I think with China, we have some good opportunities as they are a huge market for the United States wares. But I also have concerns about their human rights, so we need to do what we can through negotiation. With Iran, I think for sure they don't get the bombs. The nuclear capability would be not only not in our United States' best interest, but not in the best interest of the Middle East, and particularly for Israel. And I think we have to be strong for Israel. They are our best friend in the Middle East. We have to assure that they survive and that they aren't challenged. And Iran it threatens the state of Israel. And so we need to do what we can from certainly sanctions and negotiations, but we have to be there for our friend. As far as Afghanistan, I think we need to get our troops home, as I've mentioned. North Korea, again, another situation where we need to and get them to the table, and there have been some efforts towards that to see that they also don't become nuclear capable. Syria, and I know that they've also been testing some bombs too, which is a big concern. Syria also, we saw with the Arab Spring, it was very heartening to see people rise up, and it took incredible courage. And it seemed like it was working for a while, but now I know that President Assad has clamped down again, but we need to do what we can to help people get democracy through the proper ways.
Thank you, Linda. And Jess, let's hear your views on foreign policy. North Korea, China, Iran, Afghanistan.
It's a lot of countries, but as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I'm certainly in favor of bringing our troops home. As a veteran, I understand what they go through, and I don't think we should be putting them through this any longer. North Korea, Iran, China, these are all issues that can be held with either sanctions or diplomacy. I believe in this. Especially Iran is a very dangerous, very volatile situation, and we have to be sure to stay there through diplomacy. The price of freedom is constant vigilance. That's what Thomas Jefferson said. And I believe that our best policy in foreign policy is to have the best intelligence that is possible. We need to stay forward, engaged in intelligence so that we do not go into these situations in a casual manner. We need to protect our resources. We need to protect our men and women and not put them in these dangerous positions without very good cause. And as we all know, the way to win a nuclear war is to make sure that one never starts. So we do need to stay engaged. We cannot kill all our enemies. We cannot imprison all our enemies. So we have to negotiate for the good of our country. America has to be strong. Everything has to be left on the table, all options, but we need to use our diplomacy.
Thank you. I'm going to try to get a few more individual questions in before we do the closing statements. David, we're starting with you on this one. I was asking, as far as campaign finance reform, what would be your solution to campaign finance reform, especially after the decision in Citizens United?
Well, we've seen in this congressional race the horrible decision the Supreme Court has made. I mean, we thought that, we knew this was going to happen in the presidential race, that big money was going to trickle in, but I think all of us are a little bit surprised that it's already happened at the congressional level. I mean, we have decision makers back in Washington, D.C. and these super PACs that have come in and have chosen a candidate in this race, and they are spending a tremendous amount of money on negative ads. It's one of the most negative campaigns I've seen in a long time. It first hit me when, Julia, when you got into this race, when you had all your supporters call me and harass my voicemail, fill my voicemail up with harassing calls, my private cell phone with harassing calls, trying to push me out of this race. Then you shifted your attention to Linda, and these mailers are out of control. I mean, I don't, there are so many of them. And when you say call the DCCC, that's your buddies, Nancy Pelosi. I mean, they're the ones that have endorsed you. They're your buddies. So that's a real cop out to say call the DCCC.
Thank you. Julia, here's your questions. You have a minute and a half. For what reasons do you believe that you have a better chance of defeating Tony Strickland, especially if you've never lived in Ventura County? So you have 90 seconds to handle everything.
Well, I'm very disappointed that I can't answer the first question that you asked. But so
you're free to use your 90 seconds however you wish.
Okay, thank you. Look, this is a very important race. It's a transformational moment for Ventura County, and I believe that I can win the primary here, go on to the general, and beat Tony Strickland. That's what I believe I can do. I am running I'm running here because I believe in real issues that really concern real people. I have represented a portion of Ventura County for the last 6 years. I know this community, but most importantly, this is about real people and real issues and getting things done for the people here in Ventura County. And I believe that I have a strong track record that demonstrates my ability to get things done for people who live here in Ventura County. Anybody can look at my track record. It's out there. And I believe that this is a very important, pivotal, transformational time for Ventura County. I look forward to having more in-depth conversations with all of the people of Ventura County. I would like to respond to the first question and just say that I'm the author of the California Disclose Act here in California and working very hard on this issue and very close to seeing success. Thank you.
You will have your closing statement. Linda, question for you, and this one refers to your past. You have been a supporter of transit here locally, but the Republicans' proposed transportation bill would cut funding for rail, buses, and the types of transit that you have recommended in the past, including ones that reduce greenhouse emissions. So the question is, I know you want to be independent, but aren't these issues where there is a clear moral need and choice important for you to be able to vote on?
I not only want to be an independent, Mr. Marin, I am an independent. And I think your question indicates that perhaps I'm going to side with Republicans. To me, I love the idea that I can vote based on the issue, and I certainly support transit. So that opens it up. And I do want to also say that I very much appreciate that you had the cameras turned off, because wherever I go, they call it political ambush. I have been filmed and photographed. You'll see it on television. Probably this night's session where they were photographing me is so that it will help Julia Brownlee's ads. But it has come to such a state of our nation that we have candidates willing to lie to get elected, to say my opponent's not for pro-choice, or my opponent will end Medicare. To me, it is so important that we have this pivotal time, that we have the ability to have someone in Congress who isn't stuck to an ideological position, but actually can listen to all the issues. I'll support a bill. I don't care if it's signed by a Republican or a Democrat. If it's a good bill, I would support it. And I think Congress members need to have that ability to have that trust that you can actually work with both sides of the aisle. And so I feel very strongly if we can elect someone from Ventura County who has lived here for decades, we'll have someone that will truly represent our county's interests, not the parties.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you very much. Jess, a question for you, too, actually. The Keystone Pipeline. Would you support allowing the Keystone Pipeline to be built? And also, what are some of your ideas to keep jobs in California rather than them going out of state?
Well, first of all, concerning the Keystone Pipeline, I think it's been, the route has been changed so that it doesn't cause any environmental problems. That's the latest information that I have, and it would create jobs for many people. Now, keeping jobs, as I said earlier, every year I go to Washington a couple of times and I work with the Department of Commerce and the Department of Labor, and there are a lot of opportunities, but we have not had the ability to bring those to fruition because we have not had leadership in Washington that's willing to kick those doors open. There are plenty of grant programs available here for small businesses. There's also money available for studies to find out which issue, on what initiatives we can create jobs. I've been looking outside of the district, looking to bring in some light manufacturing here. There's availability to put veterans to work, especially disabled veterans. There's also ability to put types of industry in here that can put senior citizens to work. These things are all available. The problem is that we've never had anyone that has the political will like I do to make these things happen. That's what I do on a daily basis. I work to create economic development and to bring jobs into our community. And this is what I would do as your congressman. And with a great passion and with a great joy, believe me. Thank you.
Thank you. Al, a question for you.
True.
Our Congress, sadly, seems to be powerfully influenced by the K Street lobbyists. Do you have any policies or practices that you would use with respect to being lobbied by all of these special interests?
Okay. Money isn't everything. It helps, but still at the end of the day, the only way to fight big money is to expose it if it does bad, and to praise it and expose it if it does good. And then it'll trickle on down through all of the different candidate races next time around. You just have to bring it out in the light. They're working in dark shadows, slipping envelopes. It isn't really that important to me. I have gone after no endorsements. I have a stack of endorsements that high. I'd rather be speaking to voters. I'm really seeking not much of any other people's money. I'm spending most of my own money on it because I don't want to sell out. If I had a choice of taking money, I'd take money preferably from religious groups, because if you got to sell out, you got to best to sell out to God. Now, this basically boils down to people can't see the forest from the trees past this June election, but it boils down to pure and simple, who can beat Tony Strickland? Now, I'm not saying it's like Mae West in that movie, Every Day's a Holiday, selling me the Brooklyn Bridge, some of my opponents, but really, think about it. Tony Strickland will eat Julia Brownlee and Linda Parks because of their party changes and their flip-flops, and the votes just aren't there on Israel, their failure on education, their failure on the environment. And I believe, although Mr. Cruz, Thine, and Mr. Herrera will disagree, I'm the only one that can beat Tony Strickland come November, so vote for me.
Thank you. And that actually completes the amount of questions that I have time for, but it's been really tremendous questions from the audience and candidates. Even though I can't get some of these in, I just want to give you a couple of highlights of what's on people's minds out here. There's questions about where you stand on health care, where do you stand on the DREAM Act, where do you stand on regulation of internet poker, and where do you stand on just the growth in the planet as far as the number of people and the finite amount of resources. There's many other good questions as well that we didn't have time to get to. It is time to begin our closing statements. We're going to go in the reverse order, and each candidate will have 2 minutes for the closing statement. And we will begin at this time with Mr. Jess Herrera.
Thank you. Recently, the Ventura County Star, in a front page article, noted that the Port of Hueneme is one of the stabilizing factors in the economy in Ventura County. Stabilizing factor in the economy of Ventura County. I have been there for 17 years working to make it so. It is within your district that this economic engine resides and that it vibrates through the entire community, creating jobs and economic development. This is what I can do for this district if you allow me to go to Congress. I can work for you. I have negotiated, as I said, with the United States Navy. I've sat across from the Secretary of the Navy, from congressmen, for senators, to make things happen for this community. But there are some things that you need a little bit more oomph for, and that isn't being a congressman to get those things accomplished. If you're really serious, look at my record, see what I've done. I'm not working for the state, I'm working for you in creating those jobs. I am a viable candidate because people know me and they vote for me because they know I do a good job. And when you know about me, I'm sure that you would vote for me Because that is the issues that we are facing today, is jobs. I'm not a career politician. I work for a living. I don't need the income. I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do at the right time for this community. If you were going to hire somebody to change the economy of Ventura County, you're looking at him. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next closing statement will be from Linda Parks. And Linda, just to give you an idea, there were quite a few questions for you. Some asking about changing to become independent. You've talked about that. Also questions about the Do It Center and the Home Depot. That's out there as well. That's something you might talk to somebody afterwards about. And at this time, you'll have 2 minutes as well.
If I'm elected to Congress, I am going to work with Jess Herrera, because I know there are some great things we can do at the Port of Hueneme, and one of those things is be able to get some good container shipping storage area so that our agriculture, our farmers will be able to put their crops in there and be able to ship them to China. Right now, just for that lack of storage, they're losing a great potential resource for money. And I have a business roundtable I've put together, and I've gotten some great suggestions. I feel if you have good people giving you expert advice, you're going to make good decisions. So I would definitely work with Mr. Herrera. I also want to point out that this is a historic moment. If I'm elected, I'll be the only independent in the House of Representatives. That's something big. And what it does is it sends a message from Ventura County to Congress that we're sick and tired of the hyper-partisanship that's leading to these kind of mailers that play us for morons. Some of you may not get them, but you know, again, they're just one after the other trying to say that I'm with Sarah Palin and Bush and Cheney and I'm an elephant. And to me, it's not about the party, it's about the issue. And more importantly, it's about having people who aren't beholden. I don't take any special interest money, and that is a huge difference. It is huge. There is so much money that are pushing the candidates to make bad decisions, and maybe that's why Julia Brownlee has done these attack mailers. It's all about the money. And how refreshing if we can get someone in Congress who doesn't take any special interest money, who isn't beholden to any party, but is there and committed, as I am, to my county, to Ventura County. I know this area, I know its needs, and I know if I'm elected to Congress, we're going to have someone there who speaks the truth, and someone who's there only because they're committed to Ventura County and the city of Westlake Village. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate, Ms. Julia Brownlee.
Thank you, and thank you again to the League of Women Voters and David for hosting this important forum this evening. The voters have a clear choice in this election, and I hope I've clearly demonstrated to you what I stand for and my commitment to work my hardest to represent you well in Congress. I will take every action possible to get Ventura County's economic engines running on all cylinders. I will stand up for the middle class and hardworking families. I will stand for women's rights and continue to fight for women's equality. I will continue to fight for a quality education for our children, for quality health care for all, a clean environment, and for the protection of Medicare and Social Security, to ensure a brighter and more secure future for all of us, for our children, and for many more generations to come. I am most honored to be supported by Senators Dianne Feinstein and Barbara Boxer, Congresswoman Lois Capps, Supervisors Steve Bennett and Kathy Long, Planned Parenthood, Sierra Club, and the League of Conservation Voters, the Ventura County Stonewall Democrats, the Democratic clubs in Ventura County, as well as nurses, sheriffs, firefighters, teachers, and many, many community leaders throughout Ventura County. They believe I will do the right thing in Congress, but your support is the most important, and I hope you will give me the opportunity to earn it. With your counsel and with your advice, I know we can do a better job for Ventura and a better job for our country. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
And please, no applause. You'll have a chance in just a few moments. And our next speaker is David Cruz Thane.
Yeah, I also want to take a moment and thank the League of Women's Voters for putting this on and all your hard work in doing this. Ladies and gentlemen, something you need to know about me, I am not a career politician. I believe that the founders intended for shopkeepers and business owners and farmers and teachers to go back and do the job for a period of time, and then you return and you let someone else go. It was never supposed to be for the rest of your life. We can't get into a situation like we've had in the past for the last 26 years with Elton Gallagher. We have folks that are back there for 25, 30, 35 years that are completely disconnected to what working class families are going through, completely disconnected to what small businesses are going through. And if you give me this opportunity, I will go back there and fight for working class citizens. I will work hard for small businesses. I've been in this race the longest. I've been working it the hardest. Been back, this is our last debate, and I think this is my 5th debate so far. And I want to thank, there's a lot of familiar faces. I want to thank all of you for coming out. I also am not taking any special interest money. I believe that we have to be free of that. I'm also, of all the $100,000 plus that I've raised have all come from individuals, no special interest money. I'm a big believer in term limits, as I mentioned before. If 8 years is enough for the President of the United States, it should be more than enough for any member of the House of Representatives. And this electronic voting, we must be able to vote from our home office, district office, and be surrounded by voters, not be surrounded by the party bosses and the special interests and lobbyists. If you want to preserve the American dream, you should send somebody who's actually lived it. I've lived it. I would humbly ask you for your vote.
Thank you. And our next candidate is Al Goldberg.
Well, when I come in second on June 5th, I want to hire Julia Brown as speechwriter. That was great. Anyway, everybody's saying how they're just going to go to Congress and get along and make it all, la-da-da. And, that's not what the American people need. The American people need someone who will go in there and fight to fix it and fight to make it right, not just to let it go on and get worse year after year after year. My family, part of my family goes back to George Washington serving at Valley Forge. The founding fathers were paid $6 per day per diem. They had no idea that they'd be making thousands of stupid laws and that all of these politicians would be stealing from the Treasury. I'm very happy to talk to you tonight. The current political office holders for the last 10 to 20 years have paved the way for the biggest economic tsunami my generation have ever seen. We must fight against the injustice of corruption and fraud and for an honest government, but I can't do it alone. We must all stand up and fight for it across the country. The deficit of ethics here tonight on this panel, the deficit of morals, integrity, and truthfulness in our government officials has run rampant through the land like a plague. The theft from the government treasury by elected officials is sinful. We must bring back ethics, morality, truthfulness, and integrity to government. So it's an example of your children. Lee Iacocca, one of the captains of industry, wrote an autobiography where he wrote, "There used to be leaders in this country that would inspire us to do better. Where have they all gone?" In the last 20, 30 years in private industry, I've motivated and I've inspired people to do better. I want to do the same thing for the country, not because I need this job, like my other opponents and their stepping stones to their political futures for a higher office than this, because someone has to step up and do it, and I want to fix the country. I'm the type of person, I saw a wildfire in Ojai, jumped over the fence, put it out, jumped back over, shattered my heel. I was living on a horse ranch in Malibu where if you shovel the you-know-what, you could ride horses on the beach for film students, and a friend of mine from Texas pulled out a gun, 6 people in the room, I charged him and took the gun away from us. I see it with the country. Someone needs to stand up and fix this mess the politicians have made. Thank you. Vote for me.
Thank you, Al. And before we do the applause, just one quick thing. I have several announcements, but you're absolutely right. They deserve a wonderful round of applause. And before we wrap up, I want to point out that this was hosted by the League of Women Voters, but it was also co-sponsored by AAUW. We're grateful to them for participating, and an event like this cannot happen without volunteers. I'd like to thank, we had Jeanette, Pat, Helen, Jerry, Gus on the timing, we had Howard, Jack, and several others I don't have their names for, but I think they all deserve a round of applause too. We have some membership information if you're interested in learning more about the League of Women Voters out there, and I assume AAUW. I also have some sad news that I was given during the event. I wanted to let you all know it here and now. Councilman Tom Glancy has passed away, and those of us who knew him, worked with him, know that he was an extraordinary gentleman, and we will all miss him. And I think if we could just take a few moments of silence, please. Thank you all very much. I'm David Marion. We're grateful to the City of Thousand Oaks. Thank you so much for coming. And if you notice, we ended right on time. Thank you.